The radio chirped just as I finished turning the deadbolt on the rear door of the county office. "Sheriff Halley," I said. "We've got a missing minor," dispatch replied. 8 years old. Last seen 20 minutes ago near the runoff basin on Merrill Road. My hand stopped on the key. Name? Evan Mercer? Neighbors spotted him riding a blue bike near the drainage tunnel. Unrolling. Deputy. Collins is already there. That was all I needed. I locked up, crossed the lot, and slid into the cruiser. The engine caught clean, and I pulled out with the lights on, heading east past the grain silos, the shuttered co-op, and into the stretch where pavement gives way to open fields and scattered houses. Merrill Road dips where the county carved out a retention basin decades ago. It's not meant to be inviting, just a concrete bowl that collects overflow when storms hit hard. Tall reeds choke the edges. 3 storm drains feed into it. On one side sits a rotting baseball diamond, fences bent inward like tired ribs. I saw the lights before anything else. Deputy Collins had her cruiser angled across the shoulder, beams cutting across wet grass and the concrete lip of the basin. A woman stood frozen in the headlights, hands locked on her head. A small blue bike lay on its side near the mouth of a culvert. I parked behind her and stepped out. Collins stood near her hood, still as a post, eyes fixed on the tunnel entrance. "Bike's his," she said. "Grate's been busted for years." "Mom's right there." I walked to the woman. "I'm Sheriff Halley. Evan's your son?" She nodded fast. He was right there, riding back and forth. I went inside to stir the stove just a minute and he was gone. What was he wearing? Red hoodie, gray shorts, black sneakers. I left Collins with her and crouched by the bike. The front wheel was twisted hard left. One grip scraped raw. Grass pressed flat in a short line leading toward the tunnel. The culvert opening yawned under the road. The broken grate hung outward like a snapped jaw. Inside, concrete sloped down to shallow moving water. The tunnel curved out of sight. I radioed in. Fire. EMS. Mutual aid. Perimeter. Collins moved closer to the opening, flashlight still down, eyes working. "There's an old service line tied into this," she said. "Runs under the ball field. Walkable. For a kid." Parts of it. A man from one of the nearby houses stopped short of the tape. "I saw the boy earlier," he said. "Name's Frank Wheeler. Anyone with him?" He hesitated. "There was something else." "What kind of something?" "A costumed man." Standing by the drain, another witness, a kid on a bike, said the same thing. Dispatch logged it without comment. We taped the area, grabbed spare lights, and stepped into the tunnel. The temperature dropped instantly. The smell changed to wet concrete, rust, and something sour that had been trapped here too long. The ledge was narrow but solid. Water slid past below, carrying leaves and trash that clicked softly against the walls. Our footsteps echoed wrong, stretched thin and delayed. 10 steps in, daylight already felt too far away. I marked the wall with tape and chalk. We moved on. The tunnel curved where the map said it shouldn't. A maintenance walkway appeared. Then a ladder climbing straight up into darkness. Not on the plans. Radio signal lagged, then faded. The passage split where it shouldn't have. We marked both paths and took the left. White streaks appeared along the wall. Paint, but dragged, smeared. Too deliberate. Then footprints, small sneakers. They ran straight ahead and stopped. Clean break, no scuff, no slide. The tunnel ahead dipped into a darker chamber. We followed. Something scrambled ahead fast and frantic. Raccoons burst past us in a spray of water and claws. False alarm. I turned to say something, and froze. Something tall stood behind Collins. It filled the tunnel. Bright fabric. Pale face. A grin that didn't move. It lunged. Teeth sank into her upper arm. She screamed. The thing released instantly and fled past us, moving faster than physics had any right to allow. Blood poured. Radio dead. I tied pressure and asked if she could shoot. She nodded. We went forward. The markings grew more frequent. Higher now. On the ceiling, a shoe lay near a junction. Small, black, torn lace. Then the sound returned. Slow. Scraping. It crawled out of the dark. Not walking. Not running. Climbing. It used the tunnel like it belonged to it. Walls, ceiling, floor. The face was smooth. The smile too wide. Teeth packed tight and sharp. I fired. It didn't fall. It moved faster every time I aimed. It dropped and charged. My magazine emptied. Collins fired once. The shot took it square in the head. It flew back and hit the wall hard. Collapsed. Still. Then it changed. The face folded inward, the body reshaped. Limbs stretched, shrank, reformed. Animal. Not animal. Something between. I fired again until it stopped moving. It didn't rise. We moved on. The chamber ahead held the boy, curled on his side, breathing. Red balloons floated near the ceiling. We didn't look at them. We left. The tunnels behaved on the way out. Paint gone. No balloons. No body. They found blood, casings, tape, nothing else. I called another sheriff before sunrise. He didn't laugh. Didn't doubt me. There's something moving through places like this. It can wear anything. And it's not finished. IT didn't die down there. I didn't sleep after the tunnel. I went home, showered until the water ran cold, and still smelled concrete and rust in my nose. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the way its face folded in on itself when it died or didn't. At 6:12 the phone rang. It wasn't dispatch. It was Collins. They moved me to County Medical, she said. Her voice sounded tight, like she was holding something back. Doctors say the bite's infected, not bacterial. They don't know what to call it. I sat on the edge of the bed. How bad? They had to cut tissue away, she said. Sheriff. It healed wrong. I didn't ask what that meant. The first new disappearance, 3 days later, a woman vanished from the north end of the county. No witnesses. No forced entry. Her car sat in the driveway, keys on the seat. Front door open. What stopped me cold was the smell. Wet concrete. The same one from the tunnel. Her son told deputies he saw her talking to a man dressed like a park ranger near the drainage ditch behind their house. Green uniform. Friendly voice. Wrong place. Wrong hour. The pattern by the end of the week, there were 4 cases. Different locations. Same elements. Water nearby drainage systems culverts. Tunnels. Runoff basins. Witnesses describing different people, a utility worker. A clown. A police officer. A lost child. Always something familiar. Always something that made people lower their guard. I started pulling old reports. Unexplained drownings. Bodies found far from water. Missing persons with no trail. The dates stretched back decades. Farther than the county records should have gone. Collins called again. They want to discharge me, she said. That fast? They say I'm stable. I drove to the hospital anyway. Her arm was wrapped from shoulder to elbow. The skin around the wound looked tight, like it didn't sit right over the muscle. Do you still dream? I asked. She nodded once. Same tunnel. Same thing. But it doesn't chase me anymore. What does it do? She met my eyes. It watches. The second descent, we went back underground 2 nights later. Different basin? Different town, same smell. This time we weren't alone. State Wildlife brought a biologist. Homeland sent someone who wouldn't give his name. Everyone avoided the word creature. We followed fresh tracks into a storm system under a shopping center. Children's footprints. Adult footprints. Animal prints that didn't match anything in the books. Then we found the balloons again. Different colors. Same strings. It learned the thing didn't attack this time. It spoke, not loudly. Not threatening. It used a voice that sounded tired. A voice that sounded human. Sheriff, it said from the dark. Every gun came up. I know what you call me, it continued. But that isn't what I am. It stepped into the light wearing the shape of an old man. Gray beard. Sunken eyes. Hands held open. I don't hunt children, it said. I borrow them. The biologist vomited. What IT really was, the man from Homeland finally spoke. This thing isn't singular, he said later. It's a behavior, a pattern that repeats. A presence that moves through infrastructure humans forgot about. It doesn't have a true form. It uses ideas, stories. Fear makes the shape easier to hold. That's why it looked like what we recognized. That's why it didn't stay dead. Why IT let the boy live? I asked that question before anyone else could. The thing answered me directly. Because you came, it said. Because you followed. Predators don't like witnesses. The warning they sealed that tunnel, then another, then 3 more. T didn't matter. Water moves. So does it? Before it left, it said one last thing to me. Not threatening, almost curious. There are places deeper than yours, it said. And people who don't look back. Epilogue. Collins resigned. She doesn't like being underground anymore. Neither do I. We still get reports. Storm drains. Retention basins. Kids saying someone waved at them from the dark. We log them. We respond. But we don't chase like we used to, because now we know, it isn't hiding. It's waiting. It was never just our county. I used to think evil needed a place to live. A house, a tunnel, a town. I don't think that anymore. The federal handoff, 2 weeks after the shopping center incident, my jurisdiction disappeared. Not officially. On paper, everything stayed the same. But every storm drain call, every missing person report near water, every someone waving from a ditch complaint started rooting somewhere else first. A number I didn't recognize. A voice that never gave a name. They told me it was infrastructure oversight. They told me not to worry. That's how I knew it was bigger than us. Collins wasn't done changing. She came by my house one evening unannounced. Didn't knock. Just stood on the porch until I opened the door. Her arm was out of the sling. Healed. Too healed. The skin over the bite had gone smooth and pale. No scar tissue at all. No seam where stitches had been. Touch it, she said. I didn't want to. I did anyway. It was colder than the rest of her. Do you hear it? She asked. Hear what? She looked past me, toward the storm ditch across the road. The water, she said. It talks now. The map that shouldn't exist. 3 counties over, a public works engineer killed himself. That's what the report said. I got his files anyway. Buried in the drainage schematics was a second layer hand-drawn overlays that didn't match the real world. Tunnels that weren't listed. Chambers that didn't connect logically. Loops that fed back into themselves. Written in the margins were dates, disappearances, deaths, everyone tied to flood events. Heavy rain, overflow, movement. The system wasn't just collecting water. It was circulating. The second speaker, the next time it talked, it didn't use a friendly voice. It used dispatch. Same tone. Same cadence. Sheriff Hale, it said through my cruiser radio while I was parked alone. Your unit is requested near the East Culvert. I shut the radio off. It kept talking, not through the speaker. Inside my head, what IT wanted, it doesn't feed the way animals do. It doesn't even feed on fear. Fear is just a lubricant. What it wants is attention, recognition, witnesses. Every time someone sees it and names it, the shape stabilizes longer. That's why it borrows familiar faces. That's why it changes. That's why it hates being ignored. And that's why it didn't kill Collins. It marked her. The failed containment, they tried chlorine dumps, concrete seals, controlled collapses. Didn't matter. You can't seal something that doesn't stay in one place. Storm systems cross jurisdictions. Old tunnels connect to newer ones. Private drainage feeds public runoff. Someone, somewhere, always forgets a line. That's where it slips through. The night IT almost won, it took a school bus. Not the whole thing, just the driver. Bus found running. Doors open. Kids still strapped in. Driver's seat wet. Not blood. Water. The children said a crossing guard waved him down near a flooded underpass. Smiling. Helpful, familiar. Collins left for good. She called me from a rest stop near the state line. I can feel when it's close, she said. Where are you going? Away from drains, she replied. As far uphill as I can. Before she hung up, she said one last thing. If I ever stop calling you back, don't come looking. The truth they won't say, this thing isn't ancient. It isn't a demon. It's not supernatural in the way people want. It's adaptive. Born from human systems layered over old ground. Concrete veins, artificial flow. We built it a body without knowing. And now it's learning how to use us. Final warning, if you ever see someone standing near a drainage ditch where they shouldn't be, if they wave, if they smile too long, if they seem like someone you trust, don't stop, don't answer. And don't follow them underground, because it doesn't need to chase anymore. It knows we'll come to it. IT took Collins home. Collins stopped calling in October. At first, I told myself it meant nothing. She said she was heading uphill, away from drainage, away from concrete channels and flood maps. She said she'd be fine as long as she stayed where water didn't collect. The problem is this: every place collects water, eventually. The last message, her final voicemail, came in at 2:47. She didn't sound panicked. That scared me more than anything else. Sheriff, I think I misunderstood it. It doesn't move through water. It moves with it. There was a pause. Wind. Then quieter. I'm back where I started. The call ended. Finding Collins. They found her truck 2 days later. Parked cleanly on the shoulder of a mountain road. No skid marks. No sign of a struggle. The strange part wasn't where it was parked. It was what was underneath it, a drainage culvert. Barely big enough for runoff, concrete pipe, rusted rim. Fresh water stains like something had flowed through recently, despite no rain for days. Her keys were on the hood. Her badge sat neatly beside them. The Camera State Police brought me her body cam. They didn't want to play it, I made them. The footage showed her hiking along the road, flashlight cutting through fog. She kept touching her arm where the bite had been, rubbing it like it itched. At 1:19 she stopped walking. The camera tilted down. Water was running across the road, not flooding. Just moving, flowing sideways, against gravity. "Hey," Collins said calmly. "You followed me, didn't you?" The camera shook as she turned. Something stood just outside the beam. It didn't step into the light. It didn't need to. Its voice came from everywhere at once. "You don't hurt anymore," Collins smiled. That was the worst part. The truth about the bite, the coroner's report never made it public. I saw it anyway. The bite didn't infect her. It connected her. Nerve endings in her arm had changed density. Blood vessels rerouted. Tissue composition altered. Her body had started adapting. Not mutating, preparing. She was becoming a junction, a living access point. Why it wanted her Collins wasn't chosen at random. She went underground willingly. She followed the markings. She looked without turning away. The thing doesn't take people who run. It takes people who understand. She was proof of concept. What happened after Collins disappeared? The reports exploded. Not just here. Other states. Other countries. Same stories, translated differently. Helpful strangers near flood zones, voices coming from drains. Children hearing their names called from water. Officers receiving calls that never came from dispatch. The shapes changed. The behavior didn't. The meeting. I was finally invited to the room where decisions get made. No windows. No insignia. A man with no badge told us the truth. "We can't stop it," he said. "We can only reduce visibility." That's when I understood. They weren't trying to save people. They were trying to keep the story from stabilizing. What IT became, it doesn't always wear faces now. Sometimes it's just movement. Ripples where there's no wind. Footprints that end at drains. Reflections that lag half a second behind. It's shedding form. Learning efficiency. The final note from Collins, weeks later, I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single line, written in her handwriting. "It remembers you. Nothing else." Why I'm telling you this, because stories spread faster than water. And attention cuts both ways. If enough people know not to follow, not to answer, not to name what they see, then maybe it weakens. Maybe not. But I know this. Storm systems are expanding. Cities are sinking. And something is learning how to live in the spaces we forgot. If you hear water where it shouldn't be, don't go looking. Because it already knows where you are. We stopped saying its name. I'm retired now. That wasn't the plan. I didn't leave because I wanted to. I left because the job stopped meaning what it used to. You can't protect people from something that moves through the bones of the world. You can only teach them how to look away. What they changed after Collins disappeared, the approach shifted. Not officially, but quietly. Storm drain reports were reclassified as infrastructure noise. Missing persons near water were rerouted through separate systems. Language was edited out of dispatch logs. Words like figure, voice, waving gone. The goal wasn't denial. It was starvation. Why it weakened, the thing fed on recognition. Not belief. Recognition. It needed eyes to lock it into shape. Minds to complete the outline. Once we stopped talking about it the same way. Once officers were trained not to describe what they saw. Once witnesses were redirected before details could harden. It began to slip. Not vanish. Slip. The last confirmed sighting had happened during a storm that flooded half the eastern counties. A bodycam caught it standing knee-deep in runoff beside a collapsed culvert. No face. No costume. Just a distortion like heat rising off asphalt, shaped vaguely like a person. The officer didn't stare. Didn't ask questions, didn't follow. He backed away and marked the location for sealing. That video never circulated. That's why it mattered. What happened to Collins? This is the part I don't tell people. Not because it's classified. Because it's worse than not knowing. 3 months after the final tunnel closures, water flow patterns changed across the region. Pressure equalized in places it shouldn't have. Runoff stopped pooling where it used to. Something let go. I think Collins was the bridge. And when the thing realized it couldn't hold shape anymore, it released her. Not alive, not dead. Just Gone, like she'd never finished becoming what it needed. YIT didn't end everything because it couldn't. It was never a god. It was never a demon. It was an emergent thing, a consequence of systems built too fast and forgotten too long. Concrete remembers. Water remembers. And sometimes memory tries to stand up and look around. The world now, storm systems are still there. Drains still hum when it rains. Kids still swear they hear their names near water sometimes. But fewer people go looking. Fewer people follow. And when someone says they saw something, they're gently told they didn't. That matters more than you think. My last advice, if you ever stand near a culvert after heavy rain and feel watched, don't name it. Don't describe it. Don't try to understand. Just leave. Because some things don't die. They just lose interest. Final word, I don't know if it's gone forever. I don't know if it's sleeping. All I know is this: as long as we don't give it a face, as long as we don't give it a story, as long as we don't look too hard, it stays where it belongs, in the dark. In the water. And not thinking about us. END